Congratulations! You have found Wrestle Shoot, hosted by the Wild Thing Rob Wilds and the ladies' man Chris Casanova. Combined, we have 40 years of wrestling experience, and we're here to share those experiences, stories, and knowledge with you over the podcast airwaves. We'll be joined by friends of ours from time to time to share their stories and experiences with you as well. So climb aboard the crazy train we call Wrestle Shoot. We know how to do it, and we do it real well. Ooh, here we are, baby. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestle Shoot. I'm your host, Wild Thing Rob Wilds, joined, of course, by... Oh, wait. He's not here. Fucking Chris. You know, we're gone for 3 whole weeks. Come back for our 4th week. We got our big star coming on to join us. And, no Chris to be found. So, everybody who's watching right now in unison with me, just say it one time. Boo, Chris. Boo, Chris Casanova, boo. Okay. So, that being said, we're all going to hang out together. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to bring on this guy. He's an independent wrestling veteran. He's been around probably as long as I've been around, and he's probably been getting hit twice as long as I've been getting hit. And he does these awesome little gimmicky videos, too. They were just hilarious about how actually ridiculous the professional wrestling business is. I mean, as a whole, let's be honest. It's not just theater, right? It's theater in the round, like a big round ass is basically what professional wrestling is. So let's just get right to it, huh? Jack Vaughn hanging out with us today. What's up, brother?
I am doing fantastic. I will apologize in advance because I've been under the weather for the last couple of days, so if you hear me clear my throat a lot, I apologize.
And I'm right there with you, man. I had sinus infection, ear infection, bronchitis, and strep throat at once. So last week...
Jesus. Yeah, I think mine's just allergies. It's like the weather changes and suddenly I'm coughing a little bit and I'm clearing my throat a lot. So, but I should be all right.
Oh, I go stumbling into the Med Express because after about 3 weeks of the sickness not getting better, and I walk in, the woman goes, "Why don't you just come on with me back right now? Let's just take your vitals real quick." I was like, "Oh shit, I guess I don't look good." So, Jack, let's talk about you for a little bit. How long have you been doing this wonderful dance that we do?
So actually earlier this month was my 19th anniversary of my first day of training.
And where'd you train?
So 2004.
What's that? Where did you train?
So I started training. It was actually in just like a little garage area. I started training with Shark Boy because he is from the area that I grew up in. I saw an ad in the paper. And he was advertising his very first Shark Tank Pro Wrestling camp, and I signed up for it right then and there.
How long were you there?
So the camp was only 15 weeks, so it's 3 times a day for 3 hours, or sorry, 3 times a week for 3 hours a day. And after the 15 weeks, it was actually a really cool thing. On the last day of training, he had us all put together like a mini show for some local promoters. And I wound up going and working with Roger Ruffin at the NWF in Cincinnati after that for quite a while.
Nice. So these videos that you do crack me up. My favorite one, I think, was the brand new wrestling move that you created. Whip him off the ropes, do the Lucha Pass, and then California Howdy. I loved it.
Yeah.
Gotta love that Lucha Pass. When Americans do it, it has to be for comedic value. I mean, over there in Mexico, the Lucha Pass is over. It makes it look like you're building up more steam. I feel like the Lucha Pass in this country, from us anyway, maybe just the way that we work, just looks awkward. It looks like when you do the Lucha Pass, for the most part, they've made a mistake and they're trying to get back off on the next exit, come around and catch it again.
Yeah. And listen, there's a lot of guys that are obviously very influenced by the Lucha style, and that's perfectly fine. The Lucha Pass, though, with an American style, I hate when things look like spots, and doing that just looks like a spot. So doing it in an American style, in an American style ring or an American style match, it doesn't fit.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. You're right. Yeah, absolutely right. But for some reason, it's been gaining popularity over the last like 10 years. You've been seeing it pop up everywhere. And nobody says, when you do that, you look like you don't know what you're doing. So stop doing that. Like, what happened to those days where promoters would pull you aside and go, I want to see that shit around here anymore?
You can't do it anymore because if you try to tell someone that what they're doing is wrong, then you're gonna be considered a bully, and they're going to smear campaign against you, trying to get you blackballed from the business.
Yeah. I guess my attitude is, if you really got that much funk with me, you want to start running your mouth. How about me and you do a curtain jerk match and let's just handle it? There's no reason for it to go that bad. If a promoter ever pulled me aside and said, I don't think what you're doing here is working, you got to try something else. It's his show, man. I'm an actor on his production. So you're the director. We'll do it your way. But then back when I first was breaking in, that was back in the days when most promoters were old shooters. So they would just smack the shit out you in the back.
Yeah, and that's funny because a lot of promoters today were never wrestlers to begin with.
Yeah.
Never had a match, never did anything like that. They never got trained. They just a lot of especially some of the bigger indie promotions that I know of are just guys that had some money and wanted to play wrestling company.
Right. And that's the thing, is they play company. They don't have any psychology or intellect behind their bookings. So they're making the most mismatched, pointless, awkward matches where people are getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could book.
Sure.
You're supposed to be able to work anybody in the business, right? But let's attack this from a more realistic viewpoint of not everybody can work everybody. Not all styles matter. You get a big bruiser against a little cruiserweight, there's a real good chance a little cruiser is going to get muffed up.
Probably, yeah. And that's, I think, a lot of the, just going with what kind of how wrestling works today, a lot of those smaller guys have been told how everything should be equal because that's how they've been booked. So when they have matches with a guy that's my size, they want to be bumping me around. They want to have a bunch of falsies and near falls where they hit these big moves on me, and I kind of have to be a dick and be like, sorry guys, that's not going to work.
Right. One of my favorite stories I love to tell is me and my partner who didn't show up today. We were in the locker room at a brand new place we'd never been. And they bring us up these two little tiny miniature little cruiserweight guys who are one of their tag teams. So first of all, the promoter goes, we're going to put them over clean. No, you're not. No, we'll put them over, and that's cool. But if you think I'm going to let this little spit fuck pin me in the middle of a ring clean, that's just bad for business. That doesn't build for any rematch. That doesn't build for any good heat. That just has me going out there and playing punk for your guy. But they pull Chris aside. They go, okay, so here's the spot we like to do. They grab one of his arms each, and they start trying to do these like ringers, but they can't figure out what the order they're supposed to be doing it is together. So one's going front, one's going back, and Chris is looking at him. And he finally rips his arms away and goes, okay, we're not going to do any of that shit you just said. You guys are just going to go out there and listen to us tonight, and we're going to put you over and you're going to look good. And if you start taking liberties on us, you're not going to go over anymore, and you're not going to look so fucking good. And that's how the wrestling business should still be. It gives authenticity to it.
Yeah, I agree completely.
But I guess the art of kayfabe is dead. I mean, I still try to practice it if I'm ever at a show, but nobody else does. You get guys in the main event working each other, driving up to the venue together. All the marks are in the parking lot. They jump out of the car. They're saying, come on. Can we at least pretend? Can we at least pretend that we want to let them pretend that this is real?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I always tell people when people ask me why wrestling isn't as popular as it once was, I tell them because social media killed wrestling. Like like wrestlers today, like there's no mystique around the business anymore. Everybody knows, like you can follow all your favorite wrestlers on social media. You can see their day-to-day lives. You can see who they're friends with, and they'll be friends with these guys, and then you'll see them on TV wrestling each other. And it's like, okay, well, obviously, they don't actually dislike each other. So I always think like that's a weird thing for me to say because social media is pretty much the reason why I'm known right now to any degree. But no, I wish social media. I wish wrestlers were not allowed on social media because I feel like it would just benefit the business and everyone would be making a lot more money.
Yeah, probably. And people go, oh well, Vince is the one who killed kayfabe. Well, I mean, okay, Vince came out and said it's entertainment, sure, but then he could have put that to bed once he got the grand jury off his back and tried to start treating it real, and he did. But by that point, the marks had grabbed a hold of it. The old disgruntled job guys were coming out of the woodwork, trying to blow the business up, and those are the guys who really kind of muffed it up for where it is. Like Honky. I love Honky. I think he's a great dude. He's hysterical. I love listening to his stories. But he's the one who birthed the Shoot interviews and really going out there and just exposing a bunch of shit. Then everybody else got on board. So that really did a lot of damage to kayfabe too. So Honky, I love you, brother, but that's kind of a dick move, right? But then he would say, oh, if I didn't fucking do it, somebody else would have. What would you prefer, Marty Jannetty go do it?
Yeah. I mean, I understand his logic there, but at the same point, it's just like, maybe you just shouldn't have.
Right. Like that, did you ever see that spot that he did online with Hannibal and Poffo, where they had their little backstage brawl gimmick?
I don't think so.
You should look that up. They have a video online that Hannibal put on where Lanny Poffo comes in the back and, oh, you son of a bitch, and he slaps him in the face like twice. And then Hannibal gives Lanny this little really weak double leg, grabs him over in a little fucking, side shin lock, and he's going, settle. And Honky comes in yelling like it's real. And the funny thing is, I saw that, and it was a work right off the bat. But it exploded. And everybody thought that was legit. So that's how longing the wrestling fans actually are for some kayfabe back.
Yeah.
People say, oh, you couldn't possibly work a 10-minute armbar anymore. And I go, are you sure? Have you tried? Because it might still work. Just nobody tries it anymore.
I tell young guys all the time, fans will be into whatever you do as long as they're into you. It's, the wrestling is, they come for the entertainment or they come for the wrestling, but like realistically, if they care about you, they're going to care about anything you do in the ring.
I used to tell my students in our old school, I would say, look, you go into Burger King to get a Whopper, and somebody hands you a Whopper that's been sitting under the lamp for an hour. Would you be happy with that? No. So these wrestling fans are paying their money to come have you serve them a Whopper. Why don't you want to give them a fresh one? Why don't you want to leave them with a good taste rather than that old, greasy, I don't give a shit taste?
Right. That's a good analogy.
But then, the kids, even back, I think in our day, we didn't really listen as much as we should have. Kids nowadays aren't going to listen. And they're listening to people now who don't even really know in the first place.
Oh yeah, I definitely wish that I would have spent more time, listening and because it's one of those things where like when I first started, for people that don't know, I'm 6'6", 250. When I first got into the business, I was probably 275. Like I was a pretty big dude, and when I first started having matches, I was upset because Roger at NWF, he didn't want me to bump, but the wrestler in me wanted to be like, well, I want to go out there and show everyone that I know how to wrestle. I want to go out there and bump around and do all this stuff. And it's like, and now I tell all the big guys that I see, I'm like, hey, I was wrong. You need to listen to me because I've lived it now. Like, you don't need to be taking all these bumps because A, it doesn't make sense, and the more you bump, the less impressive you become.
We used to tour around with this guy Warpath, and he was about 6'7", Indian guy, long hair, face paint, just terrifying. He would bump 3 times for you in a match, and that's about it, because it had to really matter when you took the beast down.
Mm-hmm.
If every time he stands up, you're hitting him with clothesline or a hip toss or some dumb shit like that, well, then what validity does this big monster have? And then if he beats you, of course he beat you. That's what you want. And if you beat him, wow, what a superhero you are for taking the monster down. But if he's bumped his ass off the whole night, who cares?
That is basic psychology 101.
Right. But
the most basic of psychology.
Right. And that's all you need. You just need the basics to have yourself booked every weekend, all over your territory. If you just have the basics of your ring fundamentals, your awareness, and your psychology. So I don't know really what exactly happened to the business. I don't know where it kind of went off the rails, but I'm guessing right around the end of the Attitude era.
That sounds about right. I would say that was probably around that time.
Well, give us a reminder there, Mr. Damien. What did you say about kayfabe? It's a good one. He's a funny guy. Come on, respond. We're waiting for you, goddammit. So, do you do any training of kids yourself?
I'm not like a head trainer or anything like that. I would love to. I just don't have the time. A good buddy of mine. You've probably met Cody Hawk, or at least heard the name. So Cody Hawk has his training academy down here in Hamilton, Ohio. And even though he's off doing his own thing right now, so it's actually my buddy Aaron Williams who is running the training academy while Cody's away. And I've been helping Aaron as much as I can. So I try to get down there at least once a week to help him out.
Yeah, we had Cody's fiance on the show a couple times.
Oh, Shauna, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so here is Doug Damien's opinion on kayfabe. I saw kayfabe rummaging around in the dumpster at Taco Bell behind Howard Early.
I like to say that kayfabe is being Katie Vicked right now. Dead and it's dead and still being violated.
Nice. What's up, Mickey? And by the way, if anybody out there is trying to chat with us, guys, you just got to be over here on the Anti-Social Network watching. If you're watching from my profile or places, we're just not seeing your chats. So follow the link on my little homepage. Come on over here and chit-chat with us. We beg for interaction around here. Okay, so let me ask you, and you don't have to name anybody if you really don't want to. One guy throughout your career you had the most legit heat with.
So honestly, like, despite what the gimmick is and despite like some of the heat that I've gotten online, for the most part, I've always kind of been regarded as a very easygoing guy, like a very easy to work with guy. So honestly, the only heat that I've had with people was sort of shortly after I started doing the video stuff, and there were some workers who either didn't get it or they just didn't like it, and they like to talk some trash online, but I've never met them. I've never been in a locker room with them. Right. So I guess that's the most heat, but it's one of those things where all the heat is one-sided because I don't even know you guys. Yeah, I don't want to name names or anything, but yeah, that's there's probably like 3 or 4 of them, and I'm just like, what did I ever do to you? Like, I'm sorry you don't understand how gimmicks work, but it's whatever.
Now, before we continue, because we've been gone for a couple weeks, I would consider myself remiss if I didn't just mention how much heat I actually have with you, Ron Shaw, you bitch-titted son of a bitch. There is something legitimately wrong with you on every level. You are still the 2023 Wrestle Shoot Crybaby of the Year. If I didn't want to keep talking to Jack. I would be shredded your old bitch tit having ass right now. But Ron Shaw, just so you know, I have not forgotten about you. Eventually, you're going to respond, and we're going to have a real interesting conversation, you old cunt. And let me just let you know, I'm not just a psychopath. I mean, I am. But I'm not just a psychopath. This comes from a couple buddies of mine, Monty and Pharaoh, do a wrestling show over there in Long Island. Now, they had Ron Shaw on their show, and he just proceeded to come on and immediately go absolutely psycho like he does on everybody who interviews him, screaming and insulting them and just being a general punk. Just being the kind of guy that, boy, I would have gone to fucking work back in the day. Oh, man. Anyway, I took exception to that. So I made a comment of it when we had Monty on this very program. Ron got wind of that and decided to call me and Chris a couple of foul-mouthed Long Island sanitation workers or something like that. So I'm going to make it my mission to just get all of my fans to just torment this piece of crap until he eventually comes on this very program and owns up. So there it is. Just so you don't think I'm a total psycho. I'm just a mostly psycho.
But it's, it's one of those things where that's another thing that's lost. I mean, I don't know Ron, but like there's back in the day, guys would, if they had beef, they would just settle it. And guys just, especially today, they'll just go online and talk trash to you. But like these guys that have heat with me, I wish they would actually like talk to me and they would realize I'm not a dick. I'm working a gimmick, guys.
No, you shouldn't ever have to say that to a wrestler.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, they should never be like, oh, you're blowing the business. You're making fun of the business. Dude, fuck you. Every time you lace up your boots, and anytime anybody laces up their boots, in some semblance, they're still poking fun at what the business is now compared to what it was. Back in the good old days, me and Ron Shaw would have stepped back into the showers. We would have handled this out, and it would have been over. But instead, he's running around crying to whoever will listen instead of come to me. So, Ron, I'm telling you to come to me like a man, Mr. 70s, fucking International Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer. Dude, I could get into that club if I wanted to pay a fee. All right? It's a private club. There's no, like, big honor of being a part of that Hall of Fame. So,
I do get accused of my videos have been accused of exposing the business, but all the people that dislike me, I think their bad wrestling is doing much more damage to exposing the business.
Absolutely. They're horrible. You can't let somebody hit you in the head with a chair 5 times and then be seen walking out of the venue after the show. You can't be seen walking out. You've got to be destroyed. What happens if I took a regular person and smashed them in the head with the chair once, legit? That would have been it, much less 5 times across the head and back.
Right.
Just please, guys, if we want this business to survive, we got to get on the same page here, man. There's too many people all over the board. They don't pull this shit over in Mexico, in Canada. They're still very true to the business, and they all kind of make fun of us over here for how we behave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did some. I did a tour of Europe this past fall, and I mean, I was only on a couple shows, but like it just seemed like over there was much more reverence for actual kayfabe and not like being seen with your opponents. And these were like, they were not big indie shows. They were like the size that you would see at like a normal show here in the States, but there was just so much more like, hey, you don't need to be like out in the crowd watching the rest of the show. Stay in the back. Like, don't let yourself be seen by normal people.
You don't need to be going to Denny's together after.
Right.
Seriously, get in the car and head to the next town. If you don't have a next town, go home. Go home and eat there. Please quit killing the business. Mickey, well said, sir. Pussy will never come on your show. Because you.
That's a good comment.
Yeah, good job. I love the creative shit that these people throw out on you. But then again, last time I was on the show, Mickey tried to pick shit with me, and I told him to go fist himself. So it's all a big love fest, no matter how you look at it. All right, so I kind of want to get into like what inspired you to start pointing out the comical end for these videos of wrestling.
So, do you know Brutal Bob Evans?
I do not.
Okay. So, Brutal Bob is a guy who has been around the business since the 90s. He's done, work with pretty much every major company that's existed in the States for the last, 25 years. I think he had like a small run in Ring of Honor. He's done stuff with pretty much everybody. And very knowledgeable guy. He was doing a seminar at a show that I was on. And I knew Bob, just through social media. So I decided to stay for the seminar. And he was actually the one that he looked at me. He's like, I think you do social media really well. And I think you particularly should get on TikTok. And in general, he was telling me I should do more video content. I was really resistant to do TikTok because it just seemed like so against the veteran gimmick. And in general, I kind of wanted, when I first came out with the veteran, I wanted to kind of stay away from social media in general. But wrestling is so dependent on social media these days in order to get exposure that I kind of had to let go of that rule. But so yeah, I was really resistant to doing TikTok and doing video stuff, but Bob suggested it, so I gave it a shot. And I remember I shot a couple things, and the first video that I posted on TikTok, I actually posted it at like midnight, which, if you know anything about social media, is a terrible time to post stuff. And I was just kind of wanting to get used to using the platform and that sort of thing. Went to bed, didn't even check to see how it was doing, and then within 24 hours, I think it had like almost 100,000 views. And it kind of just in about 24 hours.
Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
So
and then
real quick.
Right. And then I posted a second video the next day at like 4 a.m. And that one did even better. So it was like right from the get-go, these videos that I did were catching on with people. And, my videos got a lot more hate from the indie fans back then than they do now, because I think for the most part, people have kind of figured it out. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much as soon as I started doing the video stuff, it just kind of took off. So it was mostly just me wanting to, like, essentially my videos are satire, and I was just trying to point out things that I thought were kind of silly. I wasn't, I've never taken a shot at an individual or a company, but I was just trying to be like, hey, this thing that a lot of you guys do, it's kind of silly and it doesn't make sense, so maybe don't do it anymore. And some people took offense to it, but for the most part, they were very well received.
Well, hey, man, I know that we left town like 7 hours ago, but I left my gear sitting on my kitchen table. So can we run back and get it real quick? I almost peed my pants, man.
Yeah.
Because that happens. Or you get those guys who, if they even crack their gear bag just to reach in and grab something out, the whole car fills with this funk.
The whiff.
Seriously, dude, flies are not lucky. Wash your gear, because I ain't working like that.
Exactly. They pull out their gear and it's just like stiff because it just hasn't been washed.
Yeah, you could just go out there and bump their gear around. They can go home.
Right, exactly.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's just... And back in my day, if you were in a locker room with the old schoolers and your gear stank, they're dragging you outside and turning a hose on you. They didn't play that game. You're not going to stink up you're not going to stink up the back. You're not going to stink up whoever you're working. We're going to go ahead and clean you up real quick. And hopefully you learn a lesson from it, because the second time around, they might just whoop your ass and kick you out.
Right.
I miss those days.
And now that's hazing.
Hazing. My favorite word. Give me a break. Yeah. Back in the good old days, like I remember my first big name was Jimmy Valiant. And I was terrified. So he gives me some spots he wanted to do, but just a couple. And then this is the finish. And then that was it. Now that was old school. Like we're just gonna figure it out there. So I hit the ring, and now I feel good. Okay, I'm gonna be able to do this. It's my first main. It's my first name. And as soon as he stepped in that ring and they turned the lights back on, my brain turned off. Now I'm looking at the crowd more than I'm looking at him. I'm trying to judge them. I'm slopping up everything I'm doing. He finally whips me into the corner, comes in with his clothesline right across the mouth, and leans in and says, all right, it's just you and me. Don't look at them anymore. Just look at me. And if you fuck up one more time, I'm going to break your arm. And then we went back to work, and the rest of the match was flawless. I was like, oh, I don't want him to break my arm because I believe he can.
Right.
Oh, good stuff. So, like, favorite kind of territory you work in? Where do you like to where do you like to be?
Well, I'm kind of centered around the Cincinnati area. That's where I've been pretty much my entire career. But like I've been doing a lot of traveling around the country recently. Like I just went to New York for the first time, and that was a lot of fun. Had a really fun match, and went to Wisconsin for the first time about a month ago.
Wisconsin is great for wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to be going back up there in a few weeks, actually. But most of my time has been centered in Ohio and Kentucky. If you get a good company in Kentucky, the Kentucky fans they get really into the shows.
Yeah, they're
especially if you can get. Yes, I actually remember. This was granted a long time ago, but I did some shows for a company in Moorhead, Kentucky. Which, if you don't know anything about Moorhead, the only thing out there is the college. So when there's like a Thursday night or Friday night and there's nothing to do, pretty much the entire town comes out. So we were, wrestling, and 500 people doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but that's a pretty big crowd for an indie wrestling show. And they were just like, yeah. And I was part of a heel tag team. We were the tag champions, and it was like every show we were just like, they were like, hey, we're going to walk you guys to your car because we think some of these people might be waiting for you. So anytime I can get a crowd like that, that's the places that I like to work.
Did a show, a charity show for a high school. And I was working heel, and boss says, go out there and do whatever it takes besides dropping an F-bomb, because you did that last night. But do whatever it takes to get the most heel heat you can. Fundraiser show for Antioch High School wrestling team. So I went out there with a couple of signs, and I walked out and I held up a sign that said, Antioch High School wrestling team sucks. Threw it down. Held up another sign. Antioch High School sucks. Threw that down. Last sign. Forget all that. Antioch sucks. Get in the ring. I have one guy who's like, slap my hand, bro. I love the bad guys. Grabbed my bottle of water and turned to him and right in his face. Dude came over that rail fast, man. I'm like, stop this guy, man. So they get it. And all I had to do was get in the ring. You go, don't be booing me as they are throwing garbage at me like the Hogan heel turn. Mm-hmm. I said, don't you boo me. Look, it's not my fault you guys live in Antioch. I didn't put you here. It's not my fault that your ghetto-ass kid robbed your ghetto-ass kid for your $3 Kmart shoes. That's not my fault. Anyway, that night, about 40 people were waiting out back for me, asking every wrestler that came out, yo, is Wild out yet? And they're like, oh, no, he left. No, he didn't. We've been here. They had to call the police to get me out.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome.
I tell people that I want to try to get Freddie Blassie heat. So I want people like trying to stab me and throwing batteries at me and stuff like that. That's the kind of heat that I want. That's
the good stuff. That's when you know that they are eating that shit like meatloaf. Yum, 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 yum. That's right. Suck it all down. Because I get really offended when people make that stupid little, wrestling fans are white trash and stupid. That bothers me. Because it's just simply not true. Wrestling fans are people, and they pay their money, and they turn their intellect off, and they are counting on you to tell them a story that makes sense. And as soon as you insult their intelligence and they turn on you, you're done. You're gone. They're never coming back to you. But when they start eating that meatloaf, yum, 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 yum. I'll see you guys next month.
Yep. And I can speak to that because, when I first started, there were probably 5 wrestling companies in Cincinnati, and 4 of those 5 companies have since gone away. There's one company that's still around, and like more companies have popped up over the years. And now Cincinnati wrestling is actually doing really well. But like there was a few companies that were just like you look at it and like this can't be good, and sure enough, within a lot of those companies within a couple of years they're already gone.
Right. Have you out in Cincinnati? Have you worked with Paloma Star yet?
I have. Yes.
Yeah, she is fantastic. I love that gal. Really
yeah, actually, I did a program. I did a program at War Wrestling with her husband last year. So she was involved in that a little bit.
When she got married and told me she married a wrestler, I was like, "Ah, God, really? You married a wrestler? Come on! You don't marry wrestlers. You just don't. At least not wrestlers from my territories anyway." Nice. Hey, did you have you had a chance to wrestle out in WV yet?
West Virginia. I'm actually going to West Virginia for the first time. April, I think it's the 15th. It's on a Friday.
Oh, you are gonna love it there. Oh man, that's a fun place to wrestle.
Yeah, I'm working. I'm doing with a company called All Star Wrestling. They wanted me to come out there to do like a Friday and Saturday, but unfortunately I already had something booked for the Saturday. So just doing the Friday show, but it should be a good time. I know, like I've seen footage of their events, and they draw really well, and it seems like the fans are really into the show. So it should be a good time.
Nice. Yeah, and the fact that there is zero the first time I wrestled in WV was for a Necro. And after the show, the show in itself, in its entirety, bell to bell, man, it was hot. Crowd was hot from the first bell, stayed hot through the main. So they were so hot that after the show, they're out in the parking lot and they're setting sofas on fire. They are just out there partying their asses off. And
like they just won the Super Bowl.
I said, "What the hell's going on?" And Necro starts laughing. He goes, "Oh, that's right. You've never been here before. This is just what we do." Now, those kinds of fans would follow Necro because, he's a psychopath like me.
Sure.
So I don't know how they're going to be at your show, but I know in Morgantown they were setting shit on fire after the show. It was awesome. Just like a college game.
That sounds like a fantastic time.
And you go out there, people handing you beers, everybody wants to be your friend. Like that feels like one of the territories where if you're working top heel, you could probably let kayfabe down a little bit and go out and meet those fans because they really do want to meet you. They love the heels.
It's good to know.
Who doesn't love the heels?
I always liked the bad guys growing up.
I mean, I don't know anybody that I grew up with who didn't look like Mr. Perfect and Rick Rude and hold them in the same caliber as Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan and Macho Man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good at what you do, then do it well.
Right.
All right. Well, Jesus, man, this time has flown by. We're only going to be able to do a 45-minute gimmick today because I have to drive 3 hours as soon as we're done.
It's no problem.
Yeah, it's fun. So tell us about it. Where can we find some of your cool stuff?
If you're looking to see like where I'm going to be wrestling, I do have a website. It's vetjackvaughn.com. And then Vet Jack Vaughn is also pretty much everywhere that you can find me on social media. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. If you try to follow me on Facebook, it's just Jack Vaughn, and it's a picture of me in my black ring jacket. And then I the video stuff that I do on TikTok is the stuff that's kind of got me the most exposure. So people seem to like those. So I try to post at least a couple videos a week. Some are better than others, but I think overall the videos are pretty quality.
The one where you did like the book meeting, you're like, yeah. So like half of our guys are wrestling on another show. They'll be here after, but they're like 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
That was great.
It
was so real.
Well, I was going to say that particular thing is actually based on a real show that I did a couple years ago. Like I was on this show, and actually my wife was wrestling on the show too. And she was like, her match got changed like 5 times because it was like, okay, well, it's supposed to be a 4-way, but one of the girls can't be here till after intermission. But we don't know if we can work the card around, so it might be a 3-way, might be a 4-way. Luckily, my match was never in jeopardy, but it really was like, half the card is wrestling on the show 30 minutes up the road. They're not going to be here until after intermission, and I'm like, that's not cool. Like, they could have told you this before that, like before the show's like getting ready to open doors, like. So that was
pretty bad. The only time I've ever seen that happen is when another promoter has heat with whoever they're running against and offers a significant amount more for them to show up late to the other guy, which is just.
That would make sense. But like, these were like in the area where I was at, there was like 4 different companies, and they all just used the same talent, and they're all within like less than an hour drive from each other. So it's just like 2 guys just happened to run shows on the same day. One was a little earlier in the day, and the other one was later. And it turned into a whole fiasco.
Yeah, that one killed me. Yeah, they're not going to be here till after intermission. Well, okay. I'm like, oh man, I've been there.
I guess we'll just flip this card upside down.
That's right.
The main is now the opener.
So if you guys get that chance, go look him up, watch his videos. You are going to laugh every inch of your ass off every time you post a new one. I'm cracking up at it. It's a lot of fun. And thanks for coming on today, brother man. You're going to have to come on back and hang out with us when Chris can actually make it. And I don't have to.
Absolutely. Sure. That sounds great. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, God, it was great. And everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. I'm going to be back here tomorrow doing the first ever episode of Ghosted with Doug Damien, where we're going to review these, footage from supernatural events. We're going to watch them, and we're going to give our opinions on if we think they're like legit or if they're just a bunch of bullshit. Which chances are most of them I think are bullshit. Even though I'm not a huge believer, I also believe what I can see. And sometimes the shit you see, that ain't what's happening.
Right.
They're very creative. They're very creative content creators. Like somebody that I just had on my show today.
Hey, there we go.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with us. Sorry we were gone so long. Won't happen again. I'll see y'all tomorrow. This is Wrestle Shoot on the Anti-Social Network. Call me. Love you. Mean it. Bye.